Just a quick heads up, this explainer is brought to you in collaboration with our friends at Velocity Classes.
Hello and welcome. You know, today we're tackling something so fundamental we almost take it for granted. Fire. We tend to think of it as, just a discovery, but it was so much more than that. It was the actual spark that ignited the entire human journey, turning us from just another species into the architects of, well, everything. So let's get into it.
All right, so let's kick things off with a huge question. What was the single greatest leap in human history? I mean, what comes to mind? The wheel? Language? Maybe agriculture? Well, we're going to make the case that the real answer is something way more elemental, more primal. The answer is fire.
To really get why, we need to picture a totally different world, a world without any controlled light, a world that was dark, cold, and honestly, pretty terrifying after sunset, a time before we held the flame in our own hands.
This is so important to remember. We didn't invent fire, we bumped into it. Just try to imagine being an early hominid, seeing a wildfire for the very first time. It would have been absolutely terrifying, right? Just this overwhelming force of pure destruction. But somewhere in all that fear, there's also a glimmer of fascination, and maybe even opportunity.
See, fire was just a part of their world. It was a natural event. You'd have lightning striking a dry savanna, a volcano lighting up the sky, or just dry grass bursting into flames in the heat. It was this raw, untamable power that our ancestors could only watch, from a safe distance.
But eventually, watching turned into wondering, and that wondering kicked off one of the longest, most difficult journeys in our entire history, the journey from being terrified of fire to controlling it. Now, this wasn't some single aha moment, not even close. Mastering fire was a slow, grinding process that took hundreds of thousands of years. It started with just the sheer courage to borrow it. I mean, can you imagine grabbing a burning branch from a wildfire? The next huge leap was figuring out how to keep it alive, tending to it, protecting it like it was the most precious thing you had. And then, finally, the ultimate power move, making fire whenever you want it.
And we can actually trace this slow burn revolution in the ground. The archaeology tells a story of this incredibly long journey. We've got possible hints from 1.5 million years ago in Kenya, much stronger evidence of controlled use in South Africa 1 million years ago, and then the real game changer, solid proof that our ancestors could create fire, which we see in England around 400,000 years ago.
Okay, so our ancestors finally have control of fire. Now what? Well, the very first and maybe the most profound thing they did with it, it changed our biology forever. This was the cooking revolution.
Let's just break this down because the change is staggering. Before fire, our ancestors spent a huge chunk of their energy just digesting, trying to break down tough, raw food. That meant you needed big, powerful jaws and a really large gut. But then comes cooking. Suddenly, the fire is doing a lot of the digestive work before the food even enters our bodies. It got way easier to absorb calories, a lot more calories, and all that extra energy had to go somewhere. And where did it go? Straight to our brains. Our guts shrank and our brains grew. It's that direct.
I mean, this right here, this is the engine of human evolution. Cooking didn't just make food taste better. It made it safer by killing off nasty pathogens, and it unlocked this treasure chest of nutrients we could never access before. This massive energy surplus is what fueled the growth of the most complex thing we know of in the universe, the human brain.
The anthropologist Richard Wrangham just nails it with this quote, "Cooking made us human." It's not just a clever line, it's a biological fact. The simple act of cooking over a fire is what gave us the fuel to become the incredibly brainy species we are today.
But fire didn't stop at just remaking our bodies. Oh no, it completely remade our entire world, kicking off enormous changes in our societies and our technology.
Think about it. Before fire, your day was over when the sun went down. The dark was dangerous. It was a time to hide. Fire changed everything. That little circle of light from the campfire, it became the very first community center. It literally pushed back the darkness and created a safe, warm place for the group to gather.
And the legacy of that campfire is just incredible when you list it out. It gave us more hours in the day, more time for social connection. It gave us warmth, which allowed us to migrate out of Africa and into much colder parts of the world. It kept big, scary predators away. But maybe most importantly, all those extra hours sitting around the fire, that's where culture was born. It's where we told stories, taught skills, and where our complex languages were really forged.
Fire also became our very first industrial technology. Yeah, it started simple, hardening the tips of wooden spears to make them more effective, but that was just the beginning. Fire let us create pottery out of simple clay. And then, and this changed the world, it allowed us to smelt metals, first bronze, then iron. The entire history of civilization, from the first cities to the Roman Empire, was built on tools and weapons that were forged in fire.
So here's the key takeaway. Fire's influence never ever stopped. It has been the engine driving our progress at every single stage of development, from the cave all the way to the skyscraper.
I mean, just look at how central it's been through every single age. In the primitive age, it was for cooking and staying safe. Then, in the agricultural age, we used it to clear land. In the Bronze and Iron Ages, it was all about smelting metal. Then, the Industrial Revolution, powered by steam engines, which are powered by fire. And even today, think about it. Most of our electricity, the rockets that take us to space, it's all a direct descendant of that first flame our ancestors learned to control.
The philosopher Friedrich Engels really captured this perfectly. He said, "Fire was the step that let us break free from our biological limits and start shaping the world to fit our needs. It was the moment that truly separated us from every other animal on this planet."
So, let's circle all the way back to that first big question. What was the greatest leap in human history? It has to be the mastery of fire, because fire didn't just keep our ancestors warm or cook their food. It rewired our brains. It built our societies. It forged our civilizations. In a very real way, it created us.
Thanks so much for joining this explainer. And a big thanks again to our collaborator, Velocity Classes. Fly your own way.